Hi, everyone. We are just opening up the webinar room and we will be getting started here in 1 minute. Feel free to make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of tea, a glass of water, and we will be starting exactly at 7 o'clock. Thank you so much. See you soon. All right. Good evening. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this wellness talk about probiotics for digestive health. Today, we have a medical biologist and naturopath, Dino Halikas, and he's going to be teaching us about the microbiome, what it is, what it does, what you can do to support a healthy microbiome, and how probiotic formulas with added vitamins can help support a healthy digestive tract and immune system. My name is Haley, and I work with our wellness events program at Nature's Fair Markets. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you to Andre and Wendy and Dino and all of the Garden of Life team who has partnered with us for this event. The presentation will be about 45 minutes, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So please feel free to ask your questions in the chat room. Let us know where you're tuning in from, where you're joining us, which favorite Nature's Fair Market location you shop at. Note that if you are joining late, a recording of the presentation will be uploaded to our YouTube channel tomorrow for you to watch anything you missed, take any extra notes, or share with family and friends. Before I hand the presentation over to Dino, I'd love to give you a bit of information on his background. He's been working in the integrative health industry for more than 30 years. He practices naturopathy in Drummondville, Quebec, and is the editor-in-chief of Vitality Quebec Magazine. Thank you so much for being here tonight with us. We are all looking forward to learning from your expertise. And with that, Dino, I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Hi, very exciting to be here. Direct from Quebec, so a little later than you guys, but very happy to be here. When Garden of Life and Haley asked me from Nature's Fair to do this, I was kind of exciting for me to talk about probiotic. This is something I really love. I use them a lot. I recommend them a lot. And to be very honest with you, I recommend mostly the Garden of Life brand just because they've done a tremendous job in their probiotic line. Garden of Life is a big company. They're in the US, they're in Canada, and they've got resources. And so they're able to do things some companies can't do in terms of mixing these probiotic with different vitamins and herbal extract, which you don't see very often on the market because it's difficult. You need expertise, you need resources, good labs. So I'm very excited to talk about these with you guys. And hopefully we'll be able to, teach you some information about how your microbiota works and how the probiotics can help you be healthier. So I'll just start right away. If you have questions, like she mentioned, just go on the chat box, just write your questions. We'll monitor that, and I'll try to answer them as much as possible. So we should be about 45 minutes for a total of about an hour. If everything goes right, it should be okay. All right. So sorry about that. I have a little cold, so maybe I'll have to cough a little bit. Hopefully it won't bother you too much, but that's what it is. It's the season. And I do take my probiotics, but sometimes it gets you anyway. But what I wanted to say is that it's still an emerging science. Probiotics are still new, even if we've been using them for years, in the industry and in naturopathy. I mean, we've known for many years that the bacteria and some of the microorganisms, but mainly the bacteria you have in your GI, your gut, and all over your body. Actually, you can see here in the slide that we've got a microbiota in different areas: nose, mouth, lungs, everywhere in UGI, the whole way, even in the urinary tract system. I mean, we thought it was sterile, but we know now there are some, with the event of genetic measurement, we can see that there are genetic material from bacteria everywhere in our body, or almost everywhere, which is pretty fascinating, because these microorganisms, they live with us, they make us healthier, and if we're not there, they're not there. So it's a symbiotic relationship, and it's very important for our health. I mean, if we didn't have those, we'd be very vulnerable, and so it's very important to have them. And what we've realized in the recent years is that they communicate with our cells. So basically, these bacteria, which are cells in themselves, secrete things, and these signal our body to react to situation. The main area where you have them is basically your GI tract, and that's where you encounter a lot of things, because you put things in your mouth, you swallow them. Sometimes it's not that good for you. Sometimes it is, but these microorganisms will figure out if you need them or you should get rid of them, and it sends signals everywhere. And now we know that these microorganisms even communicate with your nervous system and your brain. So it's called the brain-gut axis, and it should be the gut-brain axis, because most of the signal comes from the gut to the brain more than the brain to the gut. So it's really, really important, and you have to have them in a healthy fashion so your body is able to do what it needs to do properly. And so it's very important, mainly for your immune system. I think probably around 3/4 of your immune cells are in your GI tract, and they're very much influenced by these microorganisms. So we'll talk about that, a lot tonight. And this line has been designed by Dr. David Perlmutter, which is a New York Times best-selling author. He's a neurologist, a medical doctor, neurologist, and he's very involved into this gut-brain axis. And he's the one that worked with Garden of Life to put together this incredible line of probiotics that they have. So the human microbiome is the total of all the microorganisms we have in our body everywhere. We've got a microbiota in the gut. We've got a microbiota in your skin, but the total is the microbiome. And now we were able, with the gene sequencing, to identify these bacteria and these microorganisms, and identify them in a way that we know exactly what we need, what they secrete, what they do, and so forth. So this has been very enlightening in terms of medicine, because we know now that they're protecting you. They're involved in the metabolic function, like they metabolize and help with complex carbohydrate. They use them to make energy for our cells. They metabolize and help recycle our bile. That's for the digestive system, but they do produce bioactive molecules, little peptides and lipids that our body uses. They synthesize hormones and vitamins. I mean, most vitamin Bs can be produced by our microbiota, by our bacteria. Even if we can take them orally with our food, we certainly can metabolize them in our gut if we need more, which is very interesting. These bacteria will promote the maturation and the development of innate cell, that are very important for our immune system, though it helps. It sends signals when you encounter a bad bacteria or something in your food that's not good for you. It signals your immunity or your immune system, but it also help your immune system to be even better at doing its job. And it really does influence your health outside the gut. Like I mentioned, you have it everywhere, those bacteria, and also the ones in your gut will signal other bacteria and other cell in your body that something's happening. Everything is connected. And that's something we're discovering more and more every year. There's tons of published papers. I mean, in 2000, I think there was I don't know, maybe 3-4 papers every month that came out. Now there was thousands everywhere in the world. So a lot of researcher work on that, because we discover that we're discovering it's major importance for your health. Why we should take them as a supplement is something a lot of people have been asking for years now. I mean, there's still some controversy. There's still some people or scientists that think we should get our probiotics from our food, from our environment, that we don't need them as a supplement. But what we need to understand is that there's a very big difference between where we lived a century ago and where we live now. Most of the time, people were, if we go back a century or two, we were in an environment that was fully natural. Animals were grazing outside, and you would live in this environment, and you would get a lot of these bacteria in the soil. You were gardening, you were having these different bacteria in your hands, you would touch your mouth. I mean, you would eat food from the garden, and it has these bacteria on the food. We wouldn't clean it that much. We had clean water with no chlorine. We had an environment where our bacteria were thriving, in our body and in the soil and in our environment. And we would exchange these bacteria from people to people, animal to people, dirt to people, or ground to people, and water and so forth. And today, it's a little bit different. If we look at where we're living, if we're an industrialized country, I mean, we've got a lot of things going on. First of all, stress. Stress will have an impact on your microbiota, obviously. I mean, cortisol, a lot of hormones, there's things that affect your microbiota. You've got a lot of things that are sprayed all over. Just think about glyphosate. Glyphosate is an antibiotic. It kills bacteria. So we have that in our environment. It's there. I mean, it's difficult. There's a lot of laws going, and it's getting down, hopefully, in the next few years. But it's so present right now that everybody's in contact to at least a little bit of it. We've got hormone antibiotics in our food chain. We've got water that's very not contaminated, but we use a lot of things in the water to make sure that it's not going to get contaminated. And so these chlorine molecule or other molecule will affect your microbes. Obviously, they're not good for you at the end of the day, or at least not for your microbiota. We've got food that are mostly helping. If it's transform food where you've got a really high content of sugar, for example, a lot of pathogenic bacteria, the ones you don't really want in too high of an amount in your body, thrive on refined sugar, as opposed to our good ones that will prefer fiber or complex carbohydrates. So it changes depending on what you eat. It changes totally the profile of your bacteria, and so this is something we have to be aware of. And of course, that's why eating more fermented food, good quality fermented food, and also eventually getting a good supplement is kind of normal or needed these days. All right. So why is it in trouble? That's what I mentioned earlier, but there's many reasons. First of all, a lot of people today, or children today, are born through C-sections. Especially in Asia, I heard the amount of women that are asking for that to be able to keep their body part intact, and they're asking for C-section so it doesn't hurt. And, like it's kind of a trend in certain countries. What happens then is there's no natural vaginal passage, and so the baby doesn't get the same microbiota as a baby that's born naturally. And that's the first encounter with your bacteria that will colonize your colon and your GI tract and even your skin, is through this natural passage. So C-sections and formula feeding instead of breastfeeding will affect the quality of the microbiome. Of course, you do get some in the womb, so you're not totally sterile when you get out, but it still is very important to go through natural passage and being breastfed. Obviously, it's not always possible, and it's a good thing that medicine is able to do these C-section, because in some cases, the baby wouldn't survive, or even the mother. So it's science. I have nothing against that, but if you're able to get the natural way and be breastfed, you start with at least a good base. And then of course the water, chlorine, fluorine, bromine will affect your microbiota, the refined sugar. Some drugs or medication like contraceptive can have an impact. Pesticide, fungicide, obviously in our environment. Antibiotics, a lot of people take them. Even children from time to time will have to take these courses of antibiotic, and this will affect their microbiota. Alcohol is something that in a certain amount, I would argue that if you drink a really good glass of red wine once in a while, you get some polyphenol that will probably be beneficial if it's not too much alcohol. And the wine doesn't have that much alcohol. If you don't drink too much, it could be fine. But most alcohol will affect your microbiota in some ways. The lack of cultured food. We don't grow our food ourselves. The food is really clean. It's irradiated. It's sprayed. And also it doesn't ferment anymore. We prevent that. Our hunter-gatherers and people, from way, back would carry food with them. They didn't have refrigerator or anything. So it would ferment a little bit and create a microbiota in the food that you would eat, and most of it was good. There was some bacteria that weren't really the good ones, and you had to be careful. But these people knew if the food was rotten or not, and most of the time it was containing a lot of these bacteria. And actually, today we still have these fermented food if they're not pasteurized or if they're not treated afterwards. You can get incredible sources of bacteria in fermented food. And that would be a good source of probiotic. Obviously, you don't always know what's in there, which kind, which species, which strain. It's not always the same, but it could be a good way to get some in your diet anyway. and then, even if you had everything perfect and you were eating great and you didn't have chlorinated water and no medication and so forth, chronic stress created, an environment with cortisol and different hormones that's not preferable, and it's not really good for your bacteria to thrive. And so this is one of the situation where you think, I mean, I need to eat right, I need to exercise, I need to sleep, I need to take care of my digestion. But I think, in my opinion, that everybody, without exception, even babies, should consider a good probiotic in their daily routine. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. Either one every second day, one every day, but choosing the right formula, and we'll really talk about that and clarify what I mean by that, but is certainly a really good insurance policy in the environment we're living in. And even somebody that lives in a very natural environment without too many, toxins and really being careful would benefit a good probiotic in their daily routine. And I'm very convinced of that. I've seen so many great benefits that it's really something that a lot of people now understand, and especially in scientific communities. Now, which do we use? This is really the question we need to figure out more and more. But at least some companies like Garden of Life have done a tremendous job so far in bringing to the market really interesting products. So this is really why it's a must. I mean, the hunter-gatherers had a lot of rich fibers. They did have their probiotic in their soil and in their environment. We don't have that anymore. At least we don't have as much. And the transformation of food would really change everything. And we see a lot of these chronic disease, and some of them are really related to a bad microbiota. So it's kind of a shame that it's like that, but I mean, it's evolution, it's science, it's a bunch of things. I mean, to support this amount of people on the planet, and I mean, maybe we could do things differently, but we're in that setting right now. That's the environment we live in, so we have to do something about it. There's many good things that can be done totally naturally, but I think in the fact that we can't isolate ourselves in the woods in a glass canopy. I mean, we need to address the situation by trying to do the best with a really great multivitamin, whole food. Sometimes that helps. Choose the right food in our diet, try to manage stress, do exercise, make sure we get the 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I mean, there's many things to help you live better and longer, but I mean, there's things we can't avoid. I mean, vitamin D is essential, and we don't get enough in Canada, especially in the wintertime, obviously. Magnesium is a must. And I think probiotic is also must. That's really my understanding of what's going on right now. So to be able to make yours thrive, there's ways. I mean, you can make sure that in your diet you get the proper food for your bacteria. That's what we call prebiotic. So it could be interesting to add that, and also add fermented food like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, kombucha, and so forth. But you need to be aware that if you buy commercial, you get product that don't have much bacteria anymore or yeast, because basically they just kill them before they put it to the market, so they're not going to ferment more and create a problem with the food itself. So if you make it yourself, that's good, that's interesting, but still, I mean, this is limited. As for feeding with prebiotic the bacteria you have, this is something easier to do, because if you choose a plant-based whole food diet with a lot of fiber, that's what bacteria love. So, I mean, this is a good thing. If you want to go that way, this is fantastic. It won't take care of all the problems, but it's certainly a good way to start. And even the carnivores, or people that eat a lot of animal food, if you eat the whole animal from nose to tail, with the organ meat and, every part. Then you get the veggies that they eat and the fiber that they eat. So it's possible either way. But I mean, at the end of the day, your bacteria are very fond of fiber, soluble fiber, and prebiotic fibers are very important because your bacteria will use that. They ferment them and they create what we call small short chain fatty acid. Okay, so these are fats that are really small and that your cell, your enterocyte, the cell of your gut lining, will use to produce energy and to divide. So this feeds your bacteria, and your bacteria will produce products and fats that are really useful for you. So at the end of the day, you have to feed them, and the more fiber, the more diverse your microbiota is. And we've seen that with the Hadza. The Hadza is a African hunter-gatherer population that still live today. And after measuring what they ate in a day, they figured that they ate about 150 grams of fiber every day. You know what? Today in the US, it's almost the same in Canada. The average is about 13 to 15 grams, and the recommendation is about 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. That's what we should have in our diet. So a lot of people are really lacking it. Imagine 150. I wouldn't be able to consume that. I don't know. I don't think I'd have the enzymes and everything to be able to digest or at least, cope with this. But it was kind of the hunter-gatherer regimen. And if you look at their microbiota, it's very different from ours. I mean, they have, like many hundreds, like 300, 400, 500 different species of bacteria in their gut. I mean, most people in an industrialized country have less than 100. I mean, a few have 200, 250 if you do a GI map, but there's not that much. I mean, and the more you have, the better you're protected, the better you're stable in terms of metabolism. I mean, and you prevent, chronic disease and stuff. So that's why I think feeding it would be a great idea, but adding a good probiotic to the mix would certainly help too. All right. So the best source of prebiotic are acacia gum, raw chicory root. You've got artichoke, dandelion green, garlic. As soon as you cook them, you get these prebiotic down. So if you don't eat a lot of those, I mean, obviously a lot of greens in general will give you some. I mean, even cereal, most most legumes, you'd find some fiber in there that certainly will be considered prebiotic, but it's not that much. So if you wanted to go for a supplement, this exists. I mean, you can find good prebiotic supplements in health food stores, and then you can add them to your smoothies, to your beverages. I mean, they're available there. So this is something that's considered, and you can consider using them. Still, I mean, there's always the fact that you need to add stuff to your diet that helps your own probiotic, including the probiotic themselves. Just a quick slide on resistant starch. This is something a lot of people don't know about, but the starch you have in the starchy food, you absorb them and it becomes glucose in your body. But if you create a resistance to those starch, if you modify them, and there's some food that's naturally rich in resistant starch, but you can even transform food. I'm talking about potatoes and rice and plantain, for example. If you cook them, refrigerate them for 24 hours, and then reheat them, you create resistant starch. Those starch, instead of being absorbed, will not be absorbed and serve as prebiotic to your microbiota. So that's something you can think about. It's easy to do, and it will help certainly to increase the amount and the variety of your microbiota, and you can find some information on the internet on that, but that's interesting to know. And it's good if you're on a low carb diet, for example. Sometimes you can eat a little bit of potato if you cook them and you refrigerate them and then heat them again. If you do it 2-3 times, it even increases the resistant starch, which is not absorbed and doesn't affect your glycemic index. So this is interesting. All right, so what more can we do? Take probiotics. So that's really what we've done at Garden of Life, is create a full line solution of very specific formula that certainly will help and do help people that have needs in there, and people that just want to take a good probiotic as a preventative measure. So Dr. Perlmutter helped and was involved in the selection of the different strain we're using. And all of these strains are clinically studied, either in vitro, in vivo, or even clinical studies on humans. He decided how many of the colony forming unit, so the CFU, that's the amount, when you see the 20 billion or the 30 or the 50 that's the amount you have total in a capsule. That was decided depending on the case and what you needed to do. These formula are also in some cases condition specific. So we did the formula for urinary tract infection, for prostate, hyperplasia, for mood, for prenatal, for women that are pregnant. So we did construct and build formula for a different application. And this is something you can see in the market, but not as well as they did it, So this is very important. And also the strain they selected are grown in medium that are hypoallergenic. So no milk, no soy, no gluten, etc. So they were very well selected. They took the star on the market. These probiotic are selected in university setting. Usually what was done, like 20, 30 years ago, even some more recent years, we were looking at people that were very, very healthy, that didn't catch all the bugs. I have an example, once for one probiotic, for example, is a Lactobacillus acidophilus. It was a woman and his child that was in a hospital where there was a breakout of C. difficile. Everybody were sick of that infection except this mother and child, and so they were able to do take a little bit of their stool and identify some of these bacteria that were resistant, that were able to fight this C. difficile infection. And these specific strain are kept frozen. We do the sequence, the genome of them. We know they secrete things that others don't, and these are the ones that they put in a bank. Like the project for microbiome is actually selecting the best strain in the world, and these are the ones we have access to put in a capsule. And these strains are fantastic. I mean, they've done so many studies so far. So when you put them together in a formula, you get an incredible product. And all of these formula are made out of these robust and really hardy strain, and that's really what Garden of Life is offering. All right, and these strain are mixed in a capsule together, and we'll see what they use and which strain they use, but they're mixed in a capsule together with some excipient. You have to put some things in the powder to prevent the probiotic from getting moist, because when they get moisture, they wake up in the capsule, and if they don't have food, they die. So they use organic potato starch, the resistant starch, and they also use a acacia gum called fiber gum. These are prebiotic. They're in the capsule to help the bacteria when they're getting in your gut to divide and proliferate. So this is really interesting. This is the fiber gum. Fiber gum is a great prebiotic because it ferments for 24 to 48 hours. It doesn't ferment fast like FOS or other, prebiotics. So if you're sensitive, if you have IBS, if you have a problem with digesting some foods or fibers, this is the best one. And so they selected it properly. It's organic fiber gum, non-GMO, and it will ferment the whole way through. So it helps your body produce these fatty acid to help your body thrive. So this is something they've put in their capsule, and that's really interesting. So the whole line is here. They have different products, and we'll look at them quickly so I can probably identify, or you can identify one that could be good for you. But basically they have these regular one-a-day formula, and they do have formulas a little bit more specific. These formula are made out of well, actually, you see here the formula. So the once daily, the ultra, and we'll see them separately. So I won't, pass too much time here. But what they did is they chose the 9 best lactobacilli on the market and the 5 best bifidobacteria. So those are the both category or species that are very present in your gut and that we grow in a medium, and we can put in a powder form and in a capsule, and that's what people take. And the advantage here is that you know exactly what you're taking. If you take a food that's rich in probiotic, it's really good. You've got a ton of them in there, but you never know which one. These are studied one. We know exactly what we put in. So it's a little bit better in terms of objective, finding the right formula when you know exactly what you're taking every day. It doesn't prevent you from eating good fermented, rich probiotic food, but it really gives you, like I said, an insurance on what you have. So these are very well known, and in each of the formula you get the 14, so the 9-to-5 blend, and some formula we've added 1 or 2 other ones, the other ones that have more specific applications. So let's jump into these formula quickly and try to let you know a little bit what's available and which one you could choose for yourself. So this is the first one they did, the once daily. It's a 30 billion count of bacteria, and that's the amount you get at the end of the expiry date. Contrary to multivitamins and other supplements, probiotic are pretty good because at the end of the expiry date, you get the full amount still in the product. What they do is they usually put a little bit more in when they start. They put really hardy ones, the ones that don't die easily. That's the one we chose. And also they have a great packaging. You see here, you've got 2 different boxes. The one that doesn't have the yellow bar are the ones you keep in the fridge. They're in a glass bottle. The ones that have the yellow bar are the ones that are room temperature stable. Actually, they're the same bacteria. It's just the packaging and the amount we put to begin with in there. Their packaging is great. It's a plastic bottle that has a coating. It has a double layer of coating inside the plastic that prevents humidity from getting in. It's the same container that we use for, the strips we use for the pool or for the saliva to test. You don't want these strips to get moisty because they're not good anymore. They change color. These containers were developed to prevent humidity, and it's really what keeps the bacteria healthy for 24 months. So their packaging is unique. Nobody uses these containers except Garden of Life. So this is something that guarantees you that you have 30 billion at the end of the use. This formula is very straightforward. 14 bacteria. You've got great bacteria like Acidophilus that colonize the whole GI tract, that help prevent bad bacteria from infecting you. You've got 14. The more the better, in my opinion, because you need a big variety. So this is what it is. It has a little bit more lactobacilli than bifidobacteria. This is a little bit technical, but obviously a lot of people know that you've got the lactobacillus in the small intestine and the bifido in the colon. I mean, they're everywhere, but you've got a little bit more of one in an area and the other one. And for a younger person that doesn't have a specific issue, that eats well, but just wants to prevent acting on their microbiota by, like chlorine and other stuff in their environment. As a preventative measure, that's a great formula. You use one a day, a 30 billion, and you've got more lactobacilli to protect the small intestine. The other one is a 90 billion, and it's the reverse. It has more bifido than lactobacilli. So you want to colonize the colon a little bit more than the lactobacillus. I mean, you've got a lot of lacto in there, even if it's 2 bifido for 1 lacto, because it's 90 billion, you still have 30 billion of lactobacilli. So you do have a lot of them. But the reason behind this is that we wanted to make sure that somebody that has a little bit more chronic issue, like, I don't know, IBS or other inflammatory bowel disease, or even just chronic constipation or chronic diarrhea or something inflammatory, even pain and stuff. Because like I told you, digestive and the rest of your body is all connected. If you've got inflammation in your gut, you do have inflammation everywhere else. Well, the bifido are really good to balance your immune system. So this is what you find in that formula. A lot of bifido and a great amount of really good lactobacilli. And they've added one incredible bacteria in that formula called Acidophilus NCFM. The species is Acidophilus, but the strain or the genetic difference is the number you find at the end, So if you look at the different bacteria in a formula, you always see LP115 or HN001 or so forth, NCFM. These are strains. So you find a lot of Acidophilus in products, but the NCFM is the most studied strain in the market. It's the most expensive, obviously, but Garden of Life doesn't make compromise. They found that one. This one was usually used for professional products. Now it's available in a health food store probiotic. And it's great. I mean, it's on par with the best probiotic on the market. So you get a great probiotic that helps for immune, that helps for protection. So this 90 billion once a day ultra is for older people. Let's say, a little bit over 50 years old, you've got some little chronic issues, you've got hormone imbalance, you've got inflammation, stuff like that. This is the perfect formula. You can take it once a day and it could become your daily probiotic. Now, they do have a new formula on the market. I'm trying to figure out what time it is. My God, time flies. This is called Restore. So quickly, basically, this formula is a 200 billion because you have to take 2 capsules every day. It's a 28 capsule container. So it's a program. You do it for 14 days, and it's to reinstate a better or a new microbiota. So, for example, if you took antibiotics, if you got a colonoscopy and you were, on a specific diet and medication before to really clean your gut, if you got a course of steroids, or I don't know, I mean, you traveled to Asia, you got a really bad bug and you were in a diarrhea, for so many weeks, you've got to reinstall a better microbiota. You want your good bacteria to come back, and that's the formula. Restore is a 200 billion. The bacteria we chose in there are the ones that will help your own bacteria to thrive. There's been some good study about one of these bacteria, Bacillus subtilis. This is the first product in Canada that has that. This is a dirt bacteria, a ground bacteria. It's not a human strain. It's very interesting to be able to colonize and help your body recolonize and regain its own microbiota. So this is a great formula. You take it for 14 days. If you take antibiotic, you can take it at the same time. I would say 2 hours apart, but I mean during the 2 weeks you take your antibiotic, you do take your probiotic. That will help prevent some of the damage. And then you take another bottle for another 2 weeks, and you should really be fine. This is a great formula for that. This is the information on the Bacillus subtilis. Very good evidence that it helps do that. This is the best-selling product in Garden of Life everywhere in US and in Canada. That's the Daily Woman's Formula. They did a great job. It's a one a day, 50 billion. And all the bacteria in there are chosen for their capacity to control balance hormone through bile recuperation, or I would say recycling. Bile recycling. Some bacteria will have secrete enzyme, recycle the bile and help get rid of too much hormones, for example. Some of the bacteria in there, I'm thinking, Casii, Acidophilus, and some of them, Reuteri, are really good to control the bad bacteria that can create vaginal infection or urinary tract infection. They're in there. It's a great formula. Even men could take it. It was really designed for women. So if you're a woman and you're, between, let's say, 15 and 60, this is a great formula for you. That's the formula I would recommend most women take. They've got the exact same formula for men. Well, it's not the exact same formula, but they do have a once daily men. It's a 50 billion, one capsule. They've changed the ratio a little bit. It's about a 1-to-1 bifido to lacto. They still use, the brevis. They use the rhamnosus. They use some of these really good bacteria, the fermentum, that prevents some type of infection, that are really good also for hormone balance for men, anti-inflammatory for men, for their prostate and so forth. So it's a good all-around preventative formula for men. Again, very well thought and well done. And if you look closely, you see all of these probiotic are vegetarian, no gluten, no dairy, no soy, and non-GMO. They really do their homework really well, and they have great suppliers and also great lab to mix them together. Here you get the three next formula are a little bit more specific. So these are not formula you would take all the time. You could if you wanted, but they were designed for people that have a specific problem. So there's 60 capsules instead of 30. So you take 2 a day to get the amount of 50 billion. Okay, so each capsule has 25 billion. This is a formula for urinary tract infection. Again, there are bacteria that will help prevent the bad bacteria that you have in your gut to transfer to your urinary tract. For women especially, the urethra is really short, and so the contact between feces and urinary tract is possible, and it happens. And if you get a lot of E. coli bacteria or other bacteria that can cause urinary tract infection in your urinary tract, and for whatever reason your immune system is a little down, your pH is a little off, you can get that infection. So by controlling the bad bacteria in your gut, you prevent that. So that's the formula with the probiotic, to kind of control the gut, to make sure that you don't get bad bacteria in your urinary tract. But what they did with this formula is very interesting, and that's unique to Garden of Life. You won't see a product with probiotic that says urinary tract on the market, because Health Canada won't allow a claim just with bacteria for urinary tract. But what Garden of Life has done, because of their resources and the fact that they're able to do a lot of tests, they've worked on that for a really long time. They've added vitamin D, which is great for your immune system, and they've added a cranberry extract called Pacran. And this is the best thing you can find for urinary tract infection. Pacran is a patented extract of cranberry. It's a very specialized extract, and they did a lot of clinical study comparing to other type of extract of cranberry, even cranberry juice, and they've been able to show that it prevents adhesion of these bacteria to your lining of the urinary tract. So basically, you're able to flush these bacteria and you won't get recurrent infections because of that Pacran extract. And so they did studies, gold standard, double-blind control, and they were able to show that with Pacran, the reduction of the bacteria is better than any other extract, and also the adhesion is prevention is way longer. You get when you take other types of extract with cranberry, after 10 hours, the adhesion activity goes down. With Pacran, it stays up to 40 hours, which is great because you can take one probiotic a day with this extract and you prevent these bacteria from protecting themselves, attaching, being resistant to all the water you drink or even the antibiotic. They create a biofilm, they adhere really solidly, and you can't get rid totally of them. And after a month or 2 weeks, you get this infection coming back all the time. This formula will help clean your gut from the bad bacteria and help the bacteria that are present in your urinary tract to get away or get rid of them. They did the same thing for men, but not for the infection, for the prostate. Prostate inflammation and most inflammation in your body starts in your GI. So it's really an area where you need to control the microbiota, make sure you get low inflammation, not a leaky gut, by getting the inflammation down, and the bacteria will do that. And what they did is they focused this formula on anti-inflammatory, and that's really what they're doing with the mix here. And they also added the vitamin D and the flowins. Flowins is another extract of cranberry, but other parts of the fruit. And this extract is really focused on inflammation, and prostate inflammation is really something we want to avoid, because when prostate get bigger, the problem is you've got problem urinating, you've got low quantity, low yield. I mean, you don't go a lot, or you go very often. It hurts. I mean, there's many little symptoms like that called the LUTs, the low urinary tract symptoms, and they measured that. And with that flowins, they were able to do better than placebo, but they were even better than Flomax, which is the regular drug, the standard of care that doctors give. So this is a very interesting, all natural extract that helps with prostate. The third product is the Mood formula. This is a very popular formula. Again, a great formula of probiotic. And in here, they use two strains, Lactobacillus helveticus and Bifidobacterium longum. These two strains were studied by a French lab called l'Allemand, and they did 2 double-blind placebo control with these two strains together on stress, on cortisol, and on people that were anxious, stress, that had all the symptoms of a chronic stress. And they compared it with a placebo, and people that took these were able to reduce cortisol 13.5%, which is really, really good. You can't do that even with some drugs. I mean, and all the symptoms like diarrhea or constipation or bloating or really pain in the gut, all the symptoms related to stress of the GI were alleviated, or at least reduced significantly. So this is one of the 2 strains that were added to the 9-to-5 formula. And what they did, again, this is really interesting, is they added a ashwagandha extract. This is a adaptogen herb. This ashwagandha is from India. It's the best on the market. It's an organic root extract, and it has demonstrated in clinical study reduce stress and anxiety, enhance cognition, help control stress-induced carb cravings, appetite, weight gain, libido. I mean, most studies are done between 300 and 600 milligram, and that's exactly what you have when you take 2 capsules of the mood. So mood is something, if you're in that situation where you get a lot of stress at your work or your environment, and you want for a certain period of time just to work on that, that's a great formula to do that. They added a little bit of blueberries in that formula because blueberries have polyphenol that help increase absorption of vitamin D and also helps modify your microbiota. It's been shown that cranberry, blueberries, all the little berries will help increase the better strain of bacteria in your gut and reduce the bad ones. So this is something that's interesting in that formula. We've got a prenatal. It's a 20 billion because we don't do study more than 20 billion on pregnant women. This probiotic is very well done, and they've added a Lactobacillus rhamnosus HN001, which has been studied in pregnancy at the end of the pregnancy, so the last about 5 to 6 weeks. And it improves when women give birth. They are able to have a C-section without getting infection. So sometimes they give them antibiotics, but they get a really better results in general. It has been shown to improve mood swing or postpartum after the birth. And it also has shown an improvement in the baby. They've looked at babies that were born with women that took this probiotic. And after 6 months, they had 50% less eczema in the baby that had eczema than the placebo, the control group. Even on cognition, babies were a little bit better. So this is interesting. I mean, you can, if women have a probiotic during their pregnancy, they can keep taking the ones they have. But if they don't, I mean, this prenatal formula is fantastic. I would use it right from the beginning. It will help all the way. It's a very, very nice formula, and it's a once daily. And then they've got the kids probiotic. They're chewables. They're 5 billion. They've got 4 flavors. It's a great formula with the whole 9 to 5, the 14 strain. And what we're able, again, to do is add some really interesting things in there. So they have like different flavors, and they've added, let's see, I have it somewhere. Yeah, they've added vitamin C from the whole amla fruit, so it's a totally whole food natural vitamin C. They've added vitamin D3, which is really important for the immune system, and they've added a cranberry extract because you chew on those, and the cranberry extract will prevent the bacteria that create cavities to attach, to adhere, and form biofilm. So this is very interesting. I think this formula is so incredible. I mean, they've taught about everything. So I like it a lot. And you know what? Kids, they need probiotic. Even, I mean, you won't give them the chewable if they're just born or babies, but as soon as they can chew, I mean, this is a fantastic formula. And they do, are in contact with everything we are. And so their microbiota is very important for their growth, for their metabolism, their immune system. So go ahead, give probiotics to kids. I mean, and even this chewable, I mean, if you want to take them, or if you've got somebody a little older, they don't want to swallow the capsule, they want a chewable, it's a fantastic one. The taste is really good. No sugar. You can even take it after you brush your teeth at night. You chew on it. Kids love that. I mean, it's a treat, and it'll take care of their mouth microbiota, but also of their gut microbiota. And at the end, the last product is Organic Digest. This is a digestive enzyme in the same line of doctor formulated. This is really, really good because it helps digest food. By chewing those, you help your body digest food and protein properly. So it helps keep inflammation down, and it works really, really well for every type of food. So that's something I take on a regular basis. I was kind of surprised at the efficacy, and this this enzyme is pretty amazing because it's a non-GMO organic. This is rare in the market. Enzymes are usually GMO, they're modified. This isn't. I mean, Garden of Life have done a tremendous job with a lab, I think, in Atlanta to be able to create enzymes from microorganisms that weren't genetically modified. It's a vegan, gluten-free, non-dairy, non-soy, great clean digestive enzyme if you're into that. So in summary, you've got cutting edge clinical studies, strain, dairy-free, hypoallergenic, non-GMO certified, a complete line. It's sure you would find a formula for you. Probiotic is 1 a day or 1 dose a day. Some you take 2 just to get the full dose. Take it with food. I think that's the best way to take them. My opinion is that if your pH in the stomach is a little higher, around 4, when you eat, that's what happens. Your probiotic will go through really easily. If you're, fasting in the morning, your pH is a little lower, you could lose some. I mean, most of the time, after a meal or an hour or 2 during the day is fine. I mean, just before bed would be okay. I think early in the morning without food wouldn't be the best time. The rest of the day is fine. I mean, you take them when you think about it, when it's the right time for you. As long as you take them, it's fine. These are rich in prebiotic. They're shelf stable. I mean, they're really a great line of probiotic, and I think you won't find better products on the market. And I'm an independent contractor. I'm hired to talk to you about those, but I don't work directly for them. I'm really telling you, they did a great job. They have a really good quality line of probiotic, and that's the ones I take for sure. So there you go. I know I've done too long, but it's
okay.
It's a long PowerPoint. I think it's 44 slides.
Yeah,
so.
And there's so much good content there, Dino. I don't fault you for going long. We still got a great group of people who are here with us tonight. We've been tracking some questions from the group, and I know for myself, it was a good reminder when you were talking about the fiber consumption, how important that is, and like the average being 13 to 15 grams, and we should be 25 to 30 grams. Like, it's
Absolutely.
a good reminder. That's a big part of our starting point, a building block for this conversation. But there was Heather was asking, how long should you commit to taking a probiotic if it's new to you, to start to try to see that effect on your microbiome, to see those benefits?
I understand. Well, actually, usually within a few days, you'd see a difference in terms of how you feel, especially if you have digestive issues. Most people really quickly will see a difference. Then committing to it for me is lifelong. Like I think because of everything I explained at the beginning and the environment we live in, we don't get the full dose we should get if we were hunter-gatherers, 100 or, many hundreds of years ago. So basically for me, it's better to take them every second day if you don't want to take them every day, than taking them every day for 3 months and then taking a break for 3 months. It's not like other herbal supplements or stuff like that. It's really something you should have in your diet every day. Regular. So if you don't eat a lot of food that contains these, and if you're not in a perfect environment, I mean, most people should commit to taking a formula, like a general, formula, like the once daily, women, men, 30, that's what I would choose. I wouldn't go on the urinary tract or the prostate or the mood forever, obviously, because they're a little bit more specific and they have herbal extracts in there and so forth. But for the other ones, certainly no problem.
Great. Yeah, that's super helpful. And you already went over a question that Susan asked about the best time of day in regards to
Yeah.
probably not the morning with an empty stomach, but maybe right after a meal or even before bedtime. And I know so many educators that say the best time of the day is the time that you remember to take it. So
Absolutely.
be gentle with
That's really
yourself.
it, except
Yeah.
when your pH is between 1 and 2, where
Yeah.
some of those strain can suffer, because there's
Yeah.
no enterocoating, and that's something they didn't want to put in their product, and I agree with that. I mean, perfect enterocoating is never totally natural.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to use these compound that protects the capsule too much. I mean,
Yeah.
and so they're very hardy and robust strain, but I would say, if early in the morning, just eat a little something and you'll be fine within a few minutes
Great.
before you take your probiotics. And always take them um, after you've consumed antibiotic or alcohol or stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. You don't want to take them before and then take these,
Mm-hmm.
because you
You want it
risk, yeah,
after.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a few questions around the mood product.
Yeah.
A few folks wondering if you're already on like an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety med. Is it something they need to talk to their doctor about, or is it safe? Are there any contradictions?
For the probiotics, certainly not.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be any. I mean, there's no concern about probiotic and interaction with drugs or other medication.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the ashwagandha maybe. It's a 300 milligrams, so it's not that high. So I wouldn't. I mean, I'm not recommending it. Let's say it this way, but I wouldn't be that afraid. So
Yeah.
yes, you have to be careful, especially with antidepressant, but at that point, I would use a probiotic formula, maybe without the ashwagandha, if
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
to be politically correct.
Okay. Well, that's helpful, and they can always talk to their practitioner and dig in a
Yeah,
little bit deeper based on
absolutely.
their
I
needs.
mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so similarly, there was questions around the mood with breastfeeding parents.
Mhm.
And would you recommend the prenatal product instead of the Mood Plus?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. But to be honest with you, the mood is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
the ashwagandha has some concern in pregnancy and breastfeeding at high dosage, and especially if it's a leaf extract. This is a
Okay.
root extract. It doesn't have the toxic molecule you find in the leaf. And because of the 300 milligram, I wouldn't be afraid, but I would suggest the prenatal anyway. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then once everything's done, you need the mood, go ahead and have it.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, I've seen women breastfeeding and even pregnant with antidepressant, which, I mean, in some cases, it's better than not taking them. I'm not saying that, but it's way more risky than taking this probiotic, if you want my opinion.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. With the Restore product,
Yes.
how gentle is it? Barbara was asking, does it cause diarrhea? Should I be worried that way?
I mean, if you're really sensitive to probiotic, I mean, it's rare, but some people, when they take probiotic, they have to increase slowly so their body adapts to it. And they do get many different types of reactions. Sometimes it's bloating, sometimes it's diarrhea, sometimes it's constipation. I mean, it's not common, but I've seen that. So,
Okay.
of course, at 200 billion, if you know you're sensitive, start with one a day and just see and adapt. But I've seen, in cases of gut inflammation, what we call puchit, or Crohn's disease like disease. I've seen people taking 1,200 billion a day, and children, like 13 years old, without really any issue. So to be honest with you, the amount is not that big of a deal. I mean, you've got 100,000 billion already in your gut for most people. So of course it could change the potential and the way they react together taking a probiotic, but I wouldn't be that concerned. It's probiotic are gentle in general. So try it, see how you react. I mean, but there's no risk. It's just you could feel uncomfortable for a few days, and then it should be okay. So you just slow down and then go up again.
Listen to your body. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Great. And then kind of a final question that really, I think, rounds it to wrap it up tonight would be, as a female person watching this presentation, Garden of Life has such a vast offering of even just kind of like entry level, or if I've never taken a probiotic before. There was a guest tonight who asked, like, where do I start? These all sound fantastic.
That's a good question. I would go, I mean, I would go with the once a day women's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really a no-brainer for any women, any age, from my perspective. Obviously, if there's an issue with something else, I mean, like urinary tract infection, recurrent, or other, situation, chronic inflammation or something, then they should see somebody at your store, or like figure it out. And but to start, this is the one I would use for sure.
Okay. Yeah, great. And there were a few people asking. We are recording the presentation. If you joined late, it will be saved to the YouTube channel tomorrow, and it'll be emailed to you as well. You can see these products, the exciting new shelf-stable ones. They are not in the refrigerator, so they're on shelf. And then the other products, we do have a refrigerator in our wellness department that you can find them there. So thank you again, Dino and Garden of Life. You're a wonderful educator. It was such a good presentation tonight. And we look forward to having you back sometime, hopefully.
Thank you. I look forward to it too. Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.